The Bionic Eye, a recent innovative medical device aiming to restore a sense of vision, enabling people to once again observe the world around them. Currently, there are several different forms of visual prosthesis or bionic eyes being developed. However, they only function to restore partial vision as opposed to full vision. Most current models involve both internal implants and external cameras, with the development of these devices involving professionals from numerous fields such as biomedical, electrical and material engineers, vision scientists, computer scientists, along with surgeons and clinicians. Prior to explaining the function and use of the bionic eye, it is essential to understand how a healthy eye functions. Before light can reach the rods and cones of the retina, it must pass through certain parts of the eye. Light rays produced by artificial light from our surroundings enter the eye through the cornea, the transparent front part of the eye that envelops the iris, pupil and anterior chamber. The cornea typically bends or refracts the light rays that pass through the pupil. The iris, which is the colored part of the eye that surrounds the pupil, then alters the shape of the pupil by either opening in dark environments or closing in bright environments, in order to regulate the light that enters. The rays then pass through the lens, which is controlled by the muscles of the ciliary body, which either contract or relax to alter its focal length depending on the distance from which the light rays are reflected, a process called accommodation, from which the light rays then travel through the vitreous humor and are then focused onto the retina. With nearly 40 million people suffering from blindness and 125 more affected by minimal vision, the bionic eyes are revolutionary devices that can positively affect individuals' quality of life. Different bionic eye models target to restore function to varying structures of the visual pathway. Currently, only people suffering with degenerative retinal diseases are eligible to receive bionic eyes. 3 currently exist for commercial sale, including the Argus 2, Alpha AMS and the Iris V2. Argus Retinal Prosthesis, or the Bionic Eye, is a relatively new and exciting 3-part medical device that greatly aids patients who have lost their vision due to retinitis pigmentosa, which is a genetic eye condition that causes the breakdown or loss of cells in the photosensitive retina. Essentially, the Argus 2 Retinal Prosthesis system is an electronic retinal implant whereby a surgery of a few hours is performed to place a miniature electronic device on the patient's retina. This implant is also accompanied by external accessories such as a camera, mounted on a pair of glasses and a portable video processing unit. Its functionality is quite simple. The images are captured and processed by the camera and processing unit, and then sent wirelessly to the retinal implant. The implant then stimulates living cells in the retina, which in turn enables the brain to interpret these patterns as light.
Over the past decade, there have been many engineering breakthroughs and innovations regarding bionic eye prostheses. These mainly include expanding the number of locations where the microchip can be implanted and improving electrode densities. The number of electrodes on the microchip often correlates to the resolution of vision received by the individual wearing the device. Currently, many of the eye prostheses have a low number of electrodes and therefore very little resolution, so recipients of the implants can only detect small amounts of light and have difficulty recognizing distinctive shapes. These people have to undergo extensive rehabilitation to understand and become familiar with these points of light. By increasing the electrode density of the chip, it is understood that the light spots form a more defined shape, reducing patients' recovery time after surgery. Currently, the commercially available Argus 2 system uses a microchip that sits directly behind the eyeball on the retina. However, researchers from Bionic Vision Australia have had success with the first human trial of a suprachoroidal retinal implant. This chip is positioned between the sclera and the choroid, and unlike the Argus 2, this placement does not require making an incision into the retina, making it surgically safer to insert. The first generation of this device includes 24 electrodes. However, the research company is currently undergoing clinical trials for an implant with 44 electrodes, and initial results have shown that subjects have improved peripheral vision and are able to discriminate shapes more effectively. In a world first, company Second Sight is developing a subdural cortical implant. The advantage of this type of implant is that it avoids electrical signals passing through the retina and the optic nerve, instead going straight to the brain. This allows for a broader application of this particular system, as it can be used for sufferers of not only retina degeneration, but also that of the optic nerve.
Ethical issues and safety issues can both be considered complementary to each other when discussing the issues of bionic implants, specifically the bionic eye in humans. The first issue that should be considered when discussing the ethics and safety of the bionic eye is the reduced vision output to the patient. As there is an implementation of robotics in the human anatomy, the eye would be completely automatic and therefore be prone to misinterpretations of different actions that may occur during an individual's everyday life. As the bionic eye only projects a grey-like image of what would be perceived with normal vision, it can cause misreading of information, such as facial expressions, numbers, traffic signs, and other things, which could potentially put the individual's life at risk. This can ultimately impact the individual's identity as a person, as well as put themselves and others in danger if they can't see traffic signs properly. Another ethical and safety issue that rises with the growing use of bionic eye is that it can potentially cause several other diseases and effects at the cost of the patient's vision. As the implementation of bionics in humans is still a growing industry in the medical field, not enough research has been demonstrated which could support the use of bionics in humans. Because this is a new medical procedure, testing is being performed on humans, and the posed risks to the patient from the surgery and long-term effects are unknown, and therefore could pose a great risk to patients if the implementation of the bionic eye is unsuccessful, or if it introduces greater effects and suffering to the patient. Lastly, discrimination is a big ethical issue with regards to the bionic eye, as it can aggravate current discrimination against people with disability, especially as it can only be afforded by some.
In relation to the associated costs, bionic eye implants can be quite expensive. For example, the iGuess 2 costs approximately $150,000 US, and this excludes implantation costs and patient training.